Welcome back to Green is Good, and we're so honored today to have with us on Green is Good, Jan Withers. She's the national president of MAD, which is Mothers Against Drunk Driving. Welcome to Green is Good, Jan Withers.
Well, thank you very much. I'm so pleased to be here with you today.
Well, this is such an important topic, Jan, and we're so honored to have you on because I hope all our listeners here in the United States and around the world listen to this show today and the important message you have to get out. But before we get into all the important work that you do and Mothers Against Drunk Driving do, can you share first how you came to become the national president? Share your story and your journey.
I sure will. It was over 20 years ago. It was in 1992 when my middle child, Alyssa Joy is her name, and she was 15 years old at the time. And she was spending the night at her best friend's home during spring vacation. And there were 3 girls there, all sophomores, and 2 senior boys came over, and her friend Leanna had a crush on one of those boys. And Leanna's parents allowed them to go, the 3 girls, to go out with the guys. What they didn't know is that the boys had been drinking, and they continued to do so. They had stashed 2 cases of beer in the woods. And so they went to a local pond where the guys drank. And so on the way home, the driver, who had lost all of his inhibitions and, of course, all of his reaction time and everything, he was very impaired. He lost control of the car. He was going over 120 miles an hour. And the car careened across the road into the woods, and as it did that, a guardrail ripped off the right side of the car, and Alyssa was thrown out of that right side of the car into the woods. So the first gentleman on the scene, this was in 92, so not everyone had cell phones, you know.
Right.
Yeah. And so the first gentleman on the scene heard the other kids calling for her, and he found her. He went to the nearest house, had them call 911, and he went back and sat with her. I was so grateful to that gentleman for doing that. And so she was medevaced to shock trauma, and we were summoned, and we went there, and the surgeon spent all night trying to save her life, but at 4:30 in the morning, she died. We were there. I'm so glad we were there by her side. She was unconscious, but we were there.
You were there.
Yeah. So as a result of that, of course, I was flattened. I couldn't work. I really just kind of shuffled from the bed to the couch and, wandered around. And just the anguish is so intense, there aren't any words to describe it. And I really felt like I was going crazy. So one day a friend of mine said, "Why don't you call MAD?" And I said, "Oh, I don't have the energy to be active and make, I can't do that. I can't even function." And she said, no, maybe they can help you. And indeed, so I called out of desperation, and what I found was the most wonderful victim advocate on the other end of the phone, and she was so kind and just truly my lifeline. So not only did she give me help over the many years, but she also gave me hope again that there is life after this, and not only life, but I didn't want to just survive. I wanted to be able to thrive again. And so even farther down the road, as I began to stabilize, I did want to make a difference. And so I started speaking at victim impact panels, and those are things that judges will often sentence a first-time drunk driving offender to attend one of these, where they go and they listen to people who have been victimized, received injuries, had a loved one killed, victims of drunk driving, in hopes that it will affect them and not do this again. And so I began speaking at a victim impact panel, and then I also wanted to change the laws. I was angry that our society just accepted this as, it's part of life, and it doesn't need to be part of life. It's 100% preventable. And so I began working to lobby with MAD to change laws. And indeed, I was active in Maryland at the time. Maryland was the only state, along with Oklahoma, that still had drunk driving fatalities, vehicular homicide and manslaughter as a misdemeanor. It was still a misdemeanor then.
Wow.
And so that made me angry.
Yeah. Oh, no kidding.
Really. And so that was one of the first things I became active with. But along the line, during that time period, this driver was actually, his blood alcohol content was at a .08
yes.
BAC.
Yes.
And so when we started working hard to get the BAC lowered federally from a .10 to a .08, I became part of that movement too, and I was, because Alyssa was like a poster child for that, and so became very active with that. But I tell you what, my real love is victim services, and as I received help, I wanted to be able to reach out and help other people across that rocky path, and so I became trained as a victim advocate and have spent the past many years doing that as a victim advocate. I have a support group that meets once a month, and just doing all of that. So later on, more recently, I was invited to become a member of the national board, and so I did that and became more active with the National MAD, and then was elected to this position as president, which is a 3-year term.
What a wonderful, how you took a tragedy and you have triumphed over that and turned it into a tremendous platform for doing good. I just give you so much credit. I really do. And your story is as relevant today, and maybe the most relevant today, because something I want to just step back and ask you about. You said that you helped take the .10 BAC to .08 across America.
Yes.
In a time, here we are in 2013, Jan, where I think one thing that we can all agree upon as a country is that Washington has become more dysfunctional, unfortunately, than ever before. And the fact that our listeners have to find hope that there is a power in one person and a group of committed people like you who can work together, that can effectuate powerful change in this country still through the government and the political process. I think that's a sign of hope that we all have to grab onto and realize in this democracy, it still can be done. So many people say, I want to help change this. I want to help change gun control laws, let's just say. But I don't think Washington will listen and will never get done. But here you came up against an issue that, like you said, historically had been societally pushed under the rug.
Yeah.
And you turned back the tide, and you created a new paradigm. And good for you, because this has really changed the way we all think about drunk driving.
And it really has, hasn't it? And really, to me, it is the combined effort of everyone in MAD across the country. It's not one person. But also the power to be is that we don't just go and talk about statistics. It's about the personal stories. And when the legislator, the lawmaker can relate to those personal stories, and they can put their own family members in that scenario, if they can imagine that, and they do, of course, when they hear the other personal stories, it does affect change, and they listen. Not that it's easy. I can't say that it's
right.
It's work.
It's work.
To bring people on board, but you can accomplish it as an organization.
Jan, I'm on your wonderful website, the MAD's website, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, and it's just truly. While we're talking here, I'm on it, and I urge our listeners to join in and look at it as well, whether now or later today. MADD.org, and I'm on the site. Can you share a little bit, walk us through, because there's so much here. It looks like there's so many points of engagement. If I'm an individual coming to the site for the first time, which I have to shamefully admit, this is the first time I'm really spending a lot of time on the site. How do I engage? Because it looks like there's so many entrance points. what's the best way to begin?
I love that website. I really do love our website, and it is madd.org.
Right.
But I think, different people have different areas of wanting to be involved, and we are a grassroots organization, and so we always invite people to join us, and I'm excited because many, many people involved with MAD have not personally been affected by drunk driving, but they're there because they don't ever want to be, and they want to help keep our citizens safe. But we can give of our time and our talents and also our treasures. I mean, we rely on donations, and I invite people to go on the website and donate, because that is how we move forward. But this organization, really, we have a three-pronged mission.
Okay.
It's to stop drunk driving, of course, what people know, and the second part is to support the victims of this violent crime. And then the third part, which people don't necessarily know, is to prevent underage drinking. And these programs, and we have programs and activities in each of these areas. So as one of the largest victim services organizations in the United States, which I think many people don't know, we have over 1,400 trained certified victim advocates across the country.
Wow.
Wow. But we support drunk and drugged driving victims. So you were talking about that marijuana.
Yeah.
And we want people to know that we support victims of all substance impaired driving. And we actually serve one person every 8 minutes at no charge. No charge. And so our goal is to continue to increase the number of victims and survivors we serve, and to continually improve the quality of those services. And we do that on a local level. You can go on the MAD website and get the phone numbers or the emails of the local MAD. And we also have a 24-hour national helpline. Oh, I love this helpline. We launched that several years ago, and it is manned 24 hours a day by volunteers, trained victim advocates who volunteer their time day and night around the country, because, of course, our trauma isn't just occurring from 9 to 5 during the day, but frequently in the middle of the night. And so that phone number is 1-877-MAD-HELP, H-E-L-P, so M-A-D-D, HELP.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, and it's just a wonderful helpline with wonderful people. I know many of the volunteers around the country, and they're wonderful people and do wonderful work. And then what they do is that they then connect that person the next day with a victim advocate close to them, so that they can have the ongoing support and do that physically, one-on-one,
Right.
So, and we're constantly increasing the numbers that we're trying to. That's how we measure our success, is how many people we've served. And I think last year we served over 63,000 people, victims and survivors. Yeah. So right now, I'm really excited. I just came back from a victim services training, and we're working to increase our services to the diverse communities and our underserved populations. For example, in the rural communities, our Native American citizens. So, we're constantly working to improve that.
Jan, what do you now? You said you have 3 years. What year are you in terms of your your tenure over at MAD?
I'm in my second year.
Okay.
My second year, yes.
So what's it like when you took this important? You became the president. This is such a story of tragedy leading to triumph, and there could be no greater advocate than you. You've lived this, and you help reduce the legal limit in terms of what people can drink, and so there's so many. And you're a victim's advocate. What was your goal going into the presidency, and what do you think is going to be your biggest achievement in those 3 years?
Well, I tell you what, the thing that I think about as I think of these 3 years, I really like the expansion of our underage drinking program. A few years ago, we partnered with Dr. Robert Teresi, who is a professor at Pennsylvania State University, Penn State.
Right.
And he has done over 20 years of research on reducing underage drinking. And indeed, his research supports what other research says. Do you know that 3 out of 4 teenagers say that parents are the number one influence on their decisions about alcohol?
Oh,
See, we still think we're powerless against this peer pressure, but that's not the case. And what he has done is do research, and so we partnered with him, and we launched our Power of Parents program. And basically, the key to this is talking with our teens in a very positive, respectful manner, two-way communication, telling them the dangers of it, our expectations that they're not to do it until after age 21, and indeed there were consequences if that was violated, but doing it frequently. Very interesting, because our kids will roll their eyes and say, yeah, you've told me, but it's still getting in. That's the point. And so what we've learned is that by doing this, and we have quick courses on it, we have the handbook online, and we literally are being able to get to a lot of parents around the country, and we are successfully now reducing underage drinking, which I think is very, very exciting. I think so that to me is one of the major accomplishments, is our Power of Parents program. And the key, again, is to talk positively and frequently with our kids about that.
That's such an important message that we forget. We forget the influence that as adults that we have on our children's behavior, both good and bad. And I'm so glad you're saying that. And that's
it's so important.
And for our listeners out there who just joined, we're so honored today to have the National President of MADD, MADD.org, Jan Withers, on with us. And as Jan was saying earlier, if you're in a crisis and you need their help with their victims advocates, it's 1-877-MADD HELP, 1-877-MADD-HELP, and again, it's MADD.org. Jan, tell us a little bit about, you also have some new technology called DADS, D-A-D-S-S. D-A-D-S-S. So,
don't you love Mad and Dad?
I know.
Cracks me up.
So please, until I was preparing for this time with you, I never heard of DADS. Can you please share with our listeners what this means and what this evolution means with regards to your organization?
This is the most exciting thing to me in the world, because a few years ago, in the early, late 1990s, I was getting frustrated along with everyone else because whatever we did, we were not reducing the number of drunk driving fatalities and injuries across the country, and we were working hard. And then we went back to the drawing table and looked at all the research, and now we totally focus on what research says is the most effective way to do this. And so in 2006, we launched our campaign to eliminate drunk driving. That's become my favorite word, eliminate.
Great.
We will see it in our lifetime. And so that it has a combination of 3 factors. The first thing is to support high-visibility law enforcement. We know that the sobriety checkpoints and during the holiday seasons when we have the big advertisement campaign, drive sober or get pulled over, we know that reduces drunk driving by 20%. That's saving lives right now.
Wow.
The second part is of the campaign to eliminate drunk driving is to require alcohol ignition interlocks for all convicted drunk drivers, not just the high BACs, not just the repeat offenders, but everyone convicted of drunk driving. And we know that in states that have that, they've reduced their fatalities, drunk driving fatalities, from anywhere in the high 30 percentiles up to over 50%.
Jan, now wait a second. For someone who doesn't know about this kind of stuff, explain this to me. There is technology that exists today that if you're convicted, this has to be installed in your car and the car can't start unless you blow.
well set. That's exactly right. That's called a alcohol ignition interlock, and so that can be, it can be required by their sentence to be installed in the vehicle, and so they have to blow in it. And once they're convicted, they cannot have any alcohol in their system. It's a .02. This is punitive, But what we've learned in the people who have the states that have this for all convicted drunk drivers, many of them have cut their fatalities in half. So when we started in 2006, one state had it, New Mexico, and we've been working hard, and now we have it in 20 states as of this year. But the key to really eliminating, my favorite word, drunk driving is advanced technology, and that's the third part of our campaign, and that's Driver Alcohol Detection System for Safety, DADS, D-A-D-S-S.
Right.
They have their own website, DADS. And this is a wonderful technology. I've personally been able to see it, touch it,
Right.
It's fantastic. And so this will be it's a passive, non-invasive type of technology that we will be able to have in our vehicles. That would instantaneously, accurately, every single time, in a nanosecond, because, we're very impatient people. We can't wait. So in literally a millisecond, not even a second, it will accurately and precisely detect how much alcohol is in the driver's system. And if they're at the illegal level of a .08 or above, this is based on .08, our legal limit,
right.
Then the car won't function.
Now, wait a second. I, about 6 months ago, saw this on television. I thought this was Star Wars.
Yes,
Tell me,
it is. It's not. It's cool. It's great.
Tell me, this is so important.
Yes.
When is this coming out, and how can we encourage our manufacturers to make cars like this sooner rather than later? When is this coming to market?
Literally, most of the manufacturers are on board and participating in this. It's exciting for the Auto Alliance for Highway Safety. They're part of that alliance. And it's a combination of that along with our government, our National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. And we're funding, they are working together for this research. And we are going to see this within the next 10 years. The key is that they're in the second phase of their research now, and they've narrowed it down to 2 prototypes, and they're actually being installed as we talk into a vehicle to do further testing for all the factors. So there are 2 prototypes. One is touch-based, and that would be installed either on a start button or on the steering wheel, and literally, and it will only work for the person sitting in the driver's seat. And so that will accurately be able to detect if they're at or above a .08 and the car won't function.
That is so cool.
Isn't it? So and then the other one is breath-based, and that would be laser beams throughout the interior of the car, even on the steering wheel, triangulated on the driver.
Unreal.
And it would as accurately be able to detect how much alcohol system is in their system, and it wouldn't function if they're above a .08.
This
Amazing
is just
stuff.
great. And this is going to help us with so many of the issues you've been touching on today. Repeat offenders, youth drivers, and all, who sometimes don't have, the common sense or developed brains that adults have and things of that such. Right. So this is such a leap in technology for the good.
Yes, it
for
is.
The good. So how do we support this? For our listeners out there who are as amazed as I am and as inspired as I am by what you're saying, how do we help support this movement with DADS and DADS, DADSS.org? How do we help push this forward?
Well, we're always appreciative of people literally just picking up the phone or getting on the email and sending a note to their legislators and their Congress people, because their people look at those and they count them and they know what they're saying. To continue the support, because it's not easy to maintain the support because of finances. It's that simple in today's society. It's great to encourage them to continue supporting this. And also become a volunteer and, share your time and your talent your treasures, your money with MAD, because that is the way we actually move forward, is with people's support.
Jan, let's just step back for a minute and just look at some of the hard data. In 2011, and this is off of your own website
Sure.
that I've been through, at 9,878 people, despite all the amazing efforts by MAD and all the progress that you've pushed in this country and has been adopted in this country, 9,878 people, unfortunately, were still killed.
Isn't that just amazing? It's 27 people a day. Every single day.
It's beyond. I mean, I can't, this number's hurting my head. I just never, this number is astounding to me. Can you share with our listeners some of the biggest challenges, even though so much of what you just said today is inspiring, makes common sense, is important and relevant for all of us in this great country and beyond this great country, outside. We have listeners around the world. What are the challenges you're facing, and how can listeners out there that are inspired to be involved and help make a change and inspired by your journey and story help you overcome those challenges? What are the challenges as president? You have great visibility of what's going on and what's the headwinds in front and the headwinds today. What are the challenges you're up against?
I believe one of the main challenges is that people believe that this issue has been solved, that there's such awareness now about designated driver and don't drink and drive, all of our messages, that we really believe in our country that this has been solved. And it has definitely not been solved. One life is one life too many. And we won't stop until there are no lives lost to drunk driving and no one else injured by drunk driving. But people really do believe that it's been conquered, and it has not, like you say, 10,000 lives. And so that's a challenge to me, is that, because I hear that frequently.
It's a great point, and I think that's spot on, because honestly, I thought it was almost, I thought you had fixed it almost, and I'm learning so much today, and I'm sure that our listeners the same. Keep going. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's really true. And it's important to know.
Yeah.
And so, we do rely on our volunteers and our supporters. So people really can go on the website and they can call MAD, 1-877-ASK-MAD. I mean, we make it easy and say, I would like to volunteer. And there's all these different avenues that I talked about, preventing underage drinking and providing help to other people who have been victimized by impaired driving, and working hard to go to our legislators and our congresspeople and tell them what needs to be done, and tell them that you expect them to do that because you wrote for them. We need your support. As any way you can possibly help is extremely important. But and that is a challenge. All the nonprofits around the country, with the result of the economy, have suffered, and certainly MAD is no different, and we have suffered as a result of the economy. And so we are a grassroots organization, and we really ask you to do what you can to support us, because we are busy working hard to save lives.
How long ago was the dads launched, and did that whole game changer come into play?
Actually, they launched, I believe, 8 years ago.
Right.
But, I'm not positive on
it. Right.
But really, 8 years ago, and it really is a game changer. It's very, very exciting. It really is. Because no matter what the awareness, and really there's no excuse today. There is no excuse. Everybody in the country knows that we're bombarded with, drive sober, get pulled over, designated driver. We know not to do that, and yet people still do. And so this technology is really a hope. It's going to be the hope like seat belts and airbags, and the stabilizers for the vehicles, how they have become a regular part. The anti-lock braking system, that's what I was trying to think of.
Yeah. You're right.
And the seat belts and the airbags. And those things have become so standard and have saved so many lives.
You're right.
And so this will too.
If you were to guess, what happens when this technology goes in? You said it's going to be within 10 years, so let's just hope that it's even sooner. Let's say it's 5 years from now, and it goes. What does like that number look like that we talked about earlier from 2011? Does that go in half when this kind of technology goes in?
Well, it's projected when it's fully implemented.
Yeah.
And we're talking fully implemented.
Yeah, right.
It'll save about 8,000 lives a year. That's what their projection is.
Right.
That's a lot of lives. You
Yeah.
know? So that in combination with the other factors will really make a difference. And, you know, technology is doing a lot in our vehicles. It's just amazing what the cars do now that we never even imagined. And so this could just be the beginning.
You know, Jan, I have a strong wife and I have a strong daughter, and obviously you are a perfect example of this. I really think this generation, your generation and beyond, this has become a woman's world. There's very few glass ceilings left. Maybe the presidency is the last one, and maybe that's even going to be broken in the near future. You know, only time will tell. But it's Mothers Against Drunk Driving has shows again what the power of committed and amazing people can do together. But what happens to dads? Are dads welcome in, and is this part of the culture there? Because I'm sure there are as many despondent and horrified and saddened and destroyed dads that lose a loved one in this process, and are they part of the whole process as well?
So much a part of it. In fact, not our last president before last, a good friend of mine, Glenn Birch,
right,
was the president, and a wonderful man. His little boy, baby, 3-year-old, was killed by a drunk driver. But, there are as many men in MAD as there are women, and not just dads, but brothers and sisters and friends and people who haven't been affected personally yet. Great organization of everyone. My husband is very, very active with MAD, with our local MAD, and he speaks at the victim impact panels, and he's on our state advisory board for our Maryland MAD. And what he says is, when I go out and speak, I take Alyssa with me. That's what he says, and I love that. And there are so many fathers that are doing just that.
And just before we have about 2 minutes left, and I want you to be able to wind up and throw some shameless plugs out there, because MAD deserves that. But before we get there, can you take us to where you are today? How many children and grandchildren do you have, just so our listeners can hear how your life has evolved?
Well, Joe and I, my husband Joe and I, have 5 children and 5 grandchildren, actually.
Wow.
And so our life has evolved. All of our children are grown. They're all married.
Wow.
No, that's not true.
Oh.
One is not married.
Okay.
I lied. Listen to me, but he's grown up. Oh, golly. But anyway, they're wonderful. We just have wonderful kids and the greatest grandkids. And so the oldest, let me tell you, the oldest grandchild is a 23.
What?
Oh, be still my heart.
Jan.
And the youngest is almost 5.
Wow. You have a full life, Jan Withers. You have a full life. Okay, so we're down to a minute. Please give a couple shout outs for people who want to get involved and join this very important organization.
MAD just invites everyone to be involved, because feel free to go on our mad.org website and find out how you can become involved with MAD. And feel free to make a donation on that website. But you can volunteer in any way that you want. But the most important thing, if I say it 1,000,000 times, I won't be saying it enough, is the safest way to be safe. The best way to be safe is to not drink and drive. So if your activities are going to include alcohol, make sure you decide before you ever go out, before you ever have that first drink, how you're going to get home safely with a designated non-drinking driver.
Perfect. Well said. It's MADD.org and it's DADSS.org. Jan Withers, it was an honor and privilege to have you on our show today. The world truly needs more true leaders and heroes like you, and you are truly living proof that green is good.